Now that school is starting up again, I need a way to block certain streaming sites so that my kids will focus on schoolwork and not on the television. So today I'm going to show you how I use AdGuard to automate the ability to turn off or block certain websites during certain periods of the day. So let's get started. All right, so let's get into my Home Assistant here, and we're going to open a terminal, because the first thing we need to do is we need to create a file, a filter file that has the filter information in it. So we're going to go to config and www, and the reason we use this is because this is the local location, or this is a location of files you want to be able to get to outside of Home Assistant using a browser or whatever. And we're going to have to do that to get the block list to show up. So there I am. I'm going to create a new file called filter.txt, text file. And in that file, I'm going to place all of the sites that I want to block. I would block things like YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or any of those other sites. All I'm doing is trying to get my kids to focus on schoolwork and not be messing around with other things. They can be on tablets, they can be on Chromebooks, they can be whatever device that they are going to be on doing their schoolwork, and I can't sit there and stare at them the whole time. So this is just a way to help them focus. All right, so in this file I'm going to place, just for testing today, I'm not going to put those all in there because I don't want to block them while I'm doing this, but I do want to put in site. Let's try, just for example, do yahoo.com, and I believe we'll do the caret at the end, which basically says yahoo.com/anything will then be blocked. And just for good measure, I'm going to put in www.yahoo.com as well, and the caret, and we can save that file, Control X. I'm going to save it, filter text, and there we go. You can easily test this by going to Home Assistant, whatever your IP address is for Home Assistant in your network, the port, and then you need to do local, which is where the local files are stored, and then filter.txt. And if it shows up as a text file, you're good to go. So there we have it. So I now know that I can access that file from my local network here, which means I can also access it from Home Assistant. All right, so we're done here. And also you can, if you ever go to AdGuard, you'll notice that they use a GitHub directory or GitHub site for their publicly maintained ad blocker site or ad blocker list. I'm doing it locally so I can have it local. I don't have to have a server on the internet or anything like that to make it work. So, right, so that's done. So next up, we're going to go to Node-RED. And I'm going to add another tab here. I'm going to call this one filter or DNS blocker. All right, and so for that, the first thing I want to do is I'm going to call a service node. I'm going to get a call service node. This is a Home Assistant call service, and we're going to call a specific service. I'm going to call this one add DNS blocker. DNS blocker list, and the server's Home Assistant. The domain is going to be AdGuard, and the service is going to be add URL. Now, a couple caveats that I've found already, and I have a bug report in for this, or I did, but apparently it got closed. I cannot add a URL and then disable it and then re-enable it. I have to add it and delete it as I go. If I add a URL and then disable it, I get some sort of weird issue with the block list. So the first thing you have to do anyway is add the URL. We're going to leave the entity blank, and we're going to put in some data here, and we're going to do basically some editing of JSON. And for this, I need to put in name, which is the name of the block list. I call it just custom block list. And then I'm going to also add in the URL, which is going to be that link that we just tested in our browser. So I can just copy this from the browser because I know that works, and I can paste it in here. Just verify once in blah 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 text. Yep, that's the correct browser or correct link for that. And just to make it pretty, I'm just going to put these on there, line, and I'm going to space them out. Now, if you mess up the JSON, like let's just say if I forget a comma here or something like that, you should get some sort of error. It doesn't mean it's going to tell you exactly what's wrong. It's a little bit cryptic, but if you understand JSON and programming, you'll know, oh yeah, I need to look on the line before potentially and see what the problem is, and I'll put the comma in. If you don't get any red X's, you should be good to go. So we're done there. We're done with that. And we're going to create another one that I'm going to call, I'm just going to copy that. Copy, Control V, Control V, Control C, Control V. I'm going to create another one that I'm going to use for removing the list. So I'm going to call this and remove. Nope, can't spell it today. Remove DNS blocker list. Same thing, except the difference is I'm going to say remove URL. And the remove URL doesn't require a name. In fact, it errors out if you give it a name in the JSON. So we're going to take the name out and just leave the URL. Just like that. We're done with that one. Now, let me just show you before I go away from here that you can remove this here and see the different services. I hope you can see this in the drop down. I've had some issues with OBS not showing the drop down. So we have add URL, disable URL, enable URL, refresh, and remove URL. The disable and enable are not working correctly. So I just add it and remove it as I need it. All right, so how do you call these things? Well, we've got a bunch of different ways we can do this. The way I test it anyway is I do an inject node. So inject allows you to just put stuff into these nodes as a test on a manual basis. So I'm going to connect that one there, and I'm going to create another inject node and just for the removal. And I'm going to deploy this. And now let me go into AdGuard on my Home Assistant instance here. For that, I will just go straight into it. And I'll pull the AdGuard interface up. And I will look at filters, DNS block lists. These are the 4 block lists that come default with AdGuard. I'm going to, with this API call, add another one down here. And let me do that now. So everything should be good to go. If you want to debug, you can click on these dots here, make sure you're viewing the sidebar, and then you can click on this debug, and hopefully it's blank. And then when I click on the inject here, it will just send it in there. So now it says AdGuard URL, add URL called, and hopefully if we look at the filter list, I have to go off this screen and back again to see it. Now I have a custom block list with that one filter entry in it. And if I try to go to Yahoo, it tells me it cannot resolve it because now I've blocked it. All right, so I'll leave that page up for a minute. We'll see this here. Now what I'll do is I will remove the DNS block from there. And I get an error. I get an error here because the response is nothing. Again, I've tried to open a bug report on this, but I'm not sure why, but I'm kind of being tossed around between a couple of different places. I've tried to talk about it in the add-on GitHub, and they said, no, go over to the AdGuard Home, which is what this actually is, and AdGuard Home says, no, you're in the wrong place. So I'm not going to go back and forth with it. I've got a workaround. Feel free to play around with this, and if you know better how to get the bug reports in, take care of that. Or if you know what I'm doing wrong or understand what call I'm supposed to make to actually enable and disable the URL, that would be great. Just leave a comment below so that I can get that done the right way. All right, so we've called the timestamp, or we've called the remove DNS block. And so what I'm going to go do now is go over here and look at this. And if I refresh this page, you'll now see that it is gone. And if I go to yahoo.com, I now can resolve that page. So it's very simple to create a call to add and remove a block list. You can put whatever you want in that block list. If you want to filter social media sites, if you want to filter news sites, or if you want to filter specific things that you think are problematic for your situation, then do that. This right here has a lot of already built-in filters for ads and malware and things like that. So that's already a good thing. I just want to be able to control what time my family can get onto specific social media sites so that, again, they can focus on what they need to do for school and all that. Okay, so now what do we do? I don't want to do that every morning. Let's say school time is early morning. So I want to disable the social media sites from 8 a.m. till about 12 o'clock or lunchtime. So I'm going to continue to use these inject nodes, but I'm going to change them up a little bit. And so what I do is, instead of just making them manual by clicking the button here, I will actually change the repeat to a specific time. So I don't care about the weekends, they can do what they want, but at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'll name it 8 a.m., I want that to run. And then let's say at noontime, same thing, specific time, turn off the weekends because it shouldn't be on. And then at 12, which already has it specified, I can allow it to work again, and I should name it here, so we'll call this 12 p.m. to be consistent with the space. Okay, and now I'll deploy it. So what will happen is at 8 o'clock a.m. Monday through Friday, it will add that block list, and at 12 o'clock p.m. Monday through Friday, it will remove that block list. So the social media sites or whatever you have in that filter file will actually be blocked. I can also add another inject if I want to. You can do this as many times as you want. There's probably other ways to do this. I think there's a node called Big Timer that you can set specific windows in and have it do it more than once. For sake of simplicity today, we'll do it this way. So let's say from 12 to 1 o'clock, typical lunchtime or whatever, they will be able to play on social media, but then school starts back up at 1 o'clock. So then we go 1300, Monday through Friday. We will again enable that rule, and then we will, and I need to name this, at a specific time we will call this one, let's say school's over at 3 o'clock, so 1500, and I need to name it. So let's name it 1500 or 3 p.m. I guess for consistency, I'll just say 3 p.m. Really not consistent, is it? This one should be 1 p.m. All right, so I'm confusing myself here, so let's do this right away. 1 p.m., change the time to 1 p.m., 1300. I probably switched those two inject nodes when I was messing around here. All right, so 1 p.m., this one should see 3 p.m., and I probably have it backwards. It's noon. All right, 1 p.m. So, or 1300. And then this should be 1 p.m. No, nope. This should be 3 p.m. I'll get it, just bear with me. 1500. And then 1 p.m. here, 1300. All right, that's all correct now. So at 1 p.m. I can turn it back on, and at 3 p.m. I can turn it off, and then I deploy it. So what's going to happen now is at 8 o'clock a.m. this rule will come on. At 12 o'clock p.m. it will turn off or be removed. At 1 p.m. it will be re-added, and at 3 p.m. it will be removed. And so now you've basically automated your control of the filtering on that, whatever's in that particular file. So that's really as simple as it is for that. You can also, I'm not going to cover that in this video, but you can also come over here. I could potentially come over to this, my dashboard here, and create a button, and then I could call that API call just pushing the button. So I could enable and disable that on the fly if I needed to. So that may be something I'll add on later on, but for now I'm just going to automate it. I know during school time that I want the social media sites to be unavailable so that the kids will do what they need to do for school and focus on that. Simple as that. Node-RED makes everything super simple. So all you need to do is this right here, and you're good to go. If you have any questions or comments, let me know below in the comment section below. And then make sure if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, thumbs down. And then subscribe if you haven't. Hit that bell icon so you get alerted when I drop new videos. And we will see you on the next one.